is not a recruitment podcast. Welcome back to the Powered by People podcast. Today we are joined by Bill Brewer, our Talent Strategy Director at the Rec Hub, but also Merita, the VP of People at the recently promoted VP of People
at
Payhawk. We're going to talk a little bit today about scaling from seed to Series B, but particularly talking about Merita's journey, joining Payhawk at 27, employee number 27.
Yes.
And then growing over the next 2 years to about 260, 270 heads. So, why don't you introduce yourself, Merita?
Hi, my name is Merita. I am the VP of People at Payhawk. And I'm half Bulgarian, half Turkish, grew up in Greece, living in London.
What's this?
Sorry? No, it's actually, it is actually very weird. I actually didn't change my title for a long time on my signature, and everyone was like, come on, Marita, change it. I didn't even notice.
This is, it's funny because this has been a really sort of regular topic that we've spoken to many other people about on this podcast, is how the talent community is starting to have a much wider role within business, particularly moving into that people role. I think, historically you've had CHRO, which has owned all topics people related, and now you see less of CHRO and more CPO in younger businesses, or you see both.
Yeah.
And CHRO is probably more on the sort of illegal people side, if you like. And then, people looking more in terms of L&D, because realistically, talent acquisition is comprised of lots of different facets, doesn't it? You've got onboarding, you've got training and development, you've got employee engagement, because all of those things contribute to whether we need more people.
Exactly.
If you have a higher turnover, you need to acquire more people. If you have a lower turnover, you need to acquire less. What's been the sort of transition for you moving from sort of talent acquisition into people?
Good question. So initially when we started, we were very much talent partners. And what talent partner meant for us at Payhawk was that you are basically doing the 360, meaning from sourcing all the way up until exit interviews. And we recently split the team around December, January time, where we said, okay, we're going to have a talent acquisition team who will be dealing with sourcing until onboarding, and then a people partnering team where they will be dealing from onboarding till exit. That journey was very interesting, and I can say it is very, very hard for you to find people that will be able to do the entire 360, but that's what's needed in the business at that time. Right now, we're at a stage where, it's time for us to split the two, where people can actually concentrate, because you end up not being good at everything. You need concentration, you need to dedicate your time to certain important tasks. So it's been a great journey. The team has taken it well. Which means now the talent team is just dedicated on, hiring, let's say, sourcing, hiring, etc. And then the people partnering team is taking everyone through the whole process of onboarding up until exit, and they have more time to do that.
So how did they actually, how were they, when you said that this is going to be the change, this is what you're going to do, did people get to decide which team they went into?
Good question, yeah. So I actually had a conversation with the team, and I asked them, what are you looking for in the next steps? You will find that a lot of talent acquisition, let's say specialists, do not want to get into people partnering. But there are some, exceptions where people do want to get into that. Everyone says, oh yeah, but people partnering is much easier. It is not. And I wouldn't say one or the other is easy, but it was a decision not just on me, but also on the people on the team.
One of the things that we're going to look at today is obviously going from 27 to 260 in 2 years is quite an achievement. So,
thank you. Didn't do it alone. We had a team.
So what would you say some of the biggest challenges you experienced over that journey for you, this was the second time managing a TA team, first time in a Series A business. Sorry.
Yeah.
So a lot of firsts, a lot of new things that I'm sure cropped up. What would you say were some of the biggest challenges that you experienced?
All right. So everyone remembers last year was that crazy time when everyone was looking for talent acquisition. Like there was no one person out there, right?
There was more TA jobs posted than roles that they were being hired to fill.
Correct. Yeah. I remember this on LinkedIn. It was there. So I remember in December of 2021, we closed our funding round. Okay, we're gonna, turn on all the gears right now. We need to hire like crazy. This is your hiring plan, Merita. Go with it. So my team and I at the time, we were just 2 people. We're like, okay, what's the best option now? Okay, let's get introductions. Our VCs were very kind and introduced us to quite a lot of, external recruiters. So what we did is we spent the entire December last, it's been almost 2 years. I'm losing the date. Basically the entire December sitting down and partnering with all these external recruiters, negotiating the percentages that we're going to do and building those relationships. And that is the only way you could do this, especially when there was no talent acquisition specialists or TAs out there.
Quick question on that. And I think this is something that a lot of people potentially be interested in hearing is you starting, that whole process from like, we've got to scale, we've got to do it quickly, acknowledging we're going to need external partners.
Yeah.
How did you go about, so this is different for everybody, how did you go about identifying and deciding who were going to be the right partners for you?
So we first started with agencies, and to be completely honest, I was aware of the embedded solution, but I wasn't really sure how it would usually work, so I didn't even try it. So what we did was immediately spoke to our VC partners, right? And given that they have a big portfolio of companies, so they by now know exactly every single country who is the best recruitment firm there, and who are they and what kind of like skills they would be looking for, etc. Like what kind of departments and so on. So that's the first thing I did. Then I got a list straight away, which is amazing. And then I started calling these people, and we created that partnership.
Were there particular types of, some of the questions that I've had in through my agency, we were like, what's your hired time to fill ratio or time to fill? How, what's your, cost is obviously a big one, but
we didn't look at that last year.
What's your strategy to go to fill this job? How are you going to sell our brand? Are there anything, because it's really interesting, isn't it? And it's a question that we haven't really asked too often, but as an external partner, I think it's really important for agencies to understand what their clients are going to be looking for from the outset, so that they can start building their businesses and structuring their businesses and their KPIs internally to mirror what their potential clients are going to be looking for.
Better support their partners.
Exactly. Good you said partners, because for us it was building that partnerships and basically having the same values. I know values is thrown out there as cliche, but it's basically aligning to what we're looking for to see if it's going to fit with them as well. And also making sure that they've done this before, right? For scaling companies, if it's the first time they're doing it, I would not have gone ahead, because it's also my first time doing it, right? I want at least someone in this equation to have done it before. And also, without even me saying, oh, I need you to meet, let's say, the VP of sales, etc. They're like, no, I need to meet the VP of sales. I need to meet one of your, let's say, best BDRs, best AEs, to make sure that we're aligned on what we're looking for. I was like, amazing. So that one conversation, made me realize what else I can do with the rest. And I took that on board and created great partnerships, actually.
So a lot of businesses, and initially a lot of heads of TA, their first port of call in businesses is get rid of agencies. Whereas understanding that you're not going to be able to build a TA team as quickly as the business's hiring needs are adding up. So needing to understand and look at agencies is and a way about how to actually go around that.
And the more you put into that relationship, the more you're going to get out of it.
100%.
Partner. Yeah, said you really align your values and you really do your due diligence and you really align them as a partner. It's going to be a fruitful relationship both ways.
Yeah.
That's such a good point.
But if you don't, and like you said, I think the ones that struggle with a lot of agencies because they don't invest in, so just send me some CVs. We're not going to speak to you on the phone, and no shit, they don't get that much out of it.
We particularly try to really hone in on is the collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
We can get where we want to go as a team quicker than if we're just working as a client and supplier relationship.
And that's really good that you said, like you said there, they didn't just want to speak to you, they wanted to go and speak to members of the team to really understand how they can help.
Yep.
It wasn't just a quick call at the start, say, yeah, we can do it.
So you obviously, we briefly talked about embedded, and obviously going to plug that a little bit, the Rec Cup. You obviously didn't know too much about the embedded model, started working with agencies. I know you have worked with embedded since, not the Rec Cup, so worked with, but we will. What sort of? How did that come about, and how did you move into?
To be completely honest, it came out of a moment of desperation. Why? Because I was at a stage where it was just two of us, my colleague and I, and we had hired around 60 people in literally 1 quarter. And at that point, towards the end of the queue, I was like, okay, we are killing it right now. We need to stop and take a step back. And yeah, it's just not sustainable. So I was just thinking, okay, what do we do? And of course, I'm always thinking about cost in the back of my mind, right? And I was like, okay, I think it's time for us to look for an embedded solution, because we've tried our best to get, a talent acquisition. I was remember, sending messages on LinkedIn to people, would you want to join Payhawk, etc. They're like, sorry, I'm very happy where I am. I was like, what? I was getting constantly no. And I was like, you know what? The only way for, my colleague and I to survive is actually get an embedded solution. And that's what we did. End of Q1 last year. And then in Q2, we just hit the ground running and we became an even bigger machine. But again, just to say, there were hiccups with everything that we did. It wasn't all rainbows and butterflies, to the point where we had to actually build a ways of working with recruiters as well, of what is expected. With agencies, yeah, because it came to a point, yes, where they were getting annoyed. They were just sending us CVs. They're like, we don't want to do the work like this. And I'm like, trust me, I don't want that for you either, because if it's just CVs, we're just wasting money, right? So then we built a nice ways of working. We use an ATS tool, which was great. So they had visibility of what's going on, and Greenhouse.
It's really cool.
It's not the cheapest, right? But if once you have a budget to go and put money into Greenhouse, then like anything we can spend on a tool, do it. But yeah, it's a really good one.
Yeah, nice. And it has the ability to have agencies involved.
Correct. Yes, and they have visibility. It's not perfect. I want to, say this, but it's very good. At least the agency sees where the person is at which stage.
Good for reporting as well. It's probably the best one I've seen for analytics. I actually get data. I'm a big data guy. And our funnels to then make decisions in the future to say, this is going to take this long to get hired because I've got all the data that's telling me that from last time.
Which is amazing. You got to geek out on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at these numbers. Everyone's like, shut up.
What other challenges do you think you experienced in those earlier stages? So we've got to the point where we've got good relationships with agencies, got an embedded partner in, not
Yeah.
We've got we've established nice ways of working. What other challenges came up around those times?
I like to call this, designing and operating. The next challenge was the time that the hiring managers had to do interviews. So the machine was already working, right? We are killing it, screening. But then you are expecting the manager to be an individual contributor while managing a team and at the same time be recruiting, right? So for us as a talent partner team at the time, to, explain to managers of why this is important and how this is going to be, a contributor to the North Star of the business, call it ARR, MRR, whatever it is for your business. That was probably the most difficult challenge in making sure that they have time in their diaries to do that. Calendly, another tool, helped me a lot with this.
Calendly saved you in that sense?
Big time, honestly.
Because hiring managers, especially when you're scaling a lot, there's no end in sight for when they're going to stop doing interviews.
No.
Teams just keep growing. So every week, they're there to do a job, and they can't do the job without hiring these people.
Yeah. It's like the
hours hiring, interviewing and stuff.
So would you just sign all of your hiring managers up to Calendly? You would have all their links there. So if you had a candidate that was ready to go to the next stage, you would just use that link, book it in,
Boom.
add the candidate, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Such an easy tool.
It was great. And another thing we also did, I know some of our managers don't like this, but to create a bit more accountability, and this is not common practice, right? I started asking the hiring managers to review CVs. And I thought, like, with this way, it's going to make them even more accountable, because the people that you're putting through to the people team to do screening, and means that these are people that you really want in the business. Yeah. Of course, there were some delays with time. We're not the Googles of the world where we get 1,000 CVs a week, right? Yeah. The number was quite well, but that created a lot of accountability, and it was great.
Agencies versus then working with the TA team. It's the TA team being the service provider for the hiring manager. And if the TA team is seen as a partner with the hiring manager and they're as invested into it in their hiring as the TA team is, you'll get a better outcome.
Always.
You're then seen as a service provider just in the team in a different office that then just sends CVs. You're not going to.
No.
They're going to get frustrated. You're going to get frustrated. It's never going to work.
Completely. I
agree.
Do you know what? It's probably one of the most frequent challenges that we see in the TA industry is actually getting the hiring manager buy-in. Yeah. And it's so strange because we're a support, we're a service within their organisation.
Yeah.
And we're there, we exist to support them. Yeah. But sometimes it feels like we're a bit of a burden because we're just asking for their time, we're asking for their but yeah, I think it's an educational piece.
It is.
We've seen a lot of our partners and a lot of our projects where we have to educate hiring managers on actually what a recruiter does. Yeah. Because sometimes it's not necessarily known what the process is to hiring good people, and the time, skills, experience that goes into that. So it's about leveling that respect, and building those layers of respect.
It's an interesting point, actually. I wonder how much it comes up on interviewing, because I would understand that these people that are now hiring managers, you probably hired in the first place, given how much you hired. So in their interview process, were they asked about how they interact with hiring teams, how they like to work with talent teams, and things like that? Because if they're not, then, or let's say if they were asked and you saw some of those red flags, then you're like, we're not going to grow with that person.
That's a very good question, and I'm going to steal it because I haven't done this, and this is great. Luckily, I don't want to say luckily, but we have kind of like looked at the approach of, promoting within a lot. So around 50% of people are promoted, 50% of people are coming from the outside, especially when it comes to the manager side of things. So that's, I would say, definitely helped us. But I like to use this analogy about, like a startup is like the body, right? And the people talent team is the heart. If we're not pumping blood, then good luck to the rest of them, So exactly, it's really important, for people to understand that, we want to bring the best, right? We want to make sure that we partner well with hiring managers as well. Otherwise, it's just going to be that kind of blame game that nobody wants to do. And I believe we've done a good job. There's always room for improvement, but so far I would say we've done a good job.
When I was at we did the Berlin Tech Crec last year, and there was a guy on stage called Joe. He's the lead recruiter at Epic Games, and he did a big speech around stakeholder management and getting stakeholder buy-in. And I remember him talking about saying, I'd send a message out to the hiring manager saying, like, I've got your requirement here. It'd be great to do a kickoff to understand what we're going to be looking for here and partner up on this. And the hiring manager was like, I haven't really got time. Can you just start getting candidates in based on the job spec and just email me some questions?
Hiring managers, they can be really difficult. And often, like we said, feeling like sometimes you have to justify why you're asking these questions, even though you're doing it to support them and their team. But there you go.
It's the importance of quality as well, right? Because it's a two-way relationship. So I also can understand it from a hiring manager's point of view. If they keep putting a lot into the relationship, but then keep getting rubbish CVs through or mistakes keep happening, you can understand why some of them are being burnt or is a bit distant with hiring teams.
I've been in a few projects where we're like, we're going in to try and improve I love the term partnering, business partner, talent partner, people partner, because I think that's often what we have to be.
Yep.
And we're going in to sort of improve the business partner relationships, and hiring managers just want to work with agencies because they they've developed relationships externally with these agencies, and agencies, typically prefer to work with hiring managers. And so there's usually like a speed of delivery kind of thing going on, but it's so expensive. So then you have to try and, really rebuild from scratch those relationships, because they don't trust the talent partners or the business partners in the business or in the organization already.
You just got to prove yourself again, right? Which is probably the stage we're at right now. Now the team is obviously, again, like you said, hiring managers are used to working with an agency, right? So you always have someone, you come in, I've worked with that agency, let's just use them. So now what we have is, okay, give the team a month. Let's say, we usually do 2-week sprints. So like literally in those 2 weeks, like we go crazy about this role. Like we bring in amazing CVs. Of course, we check in with the hiring manager if this is exactly the type of person they're looking for. And then if we cannot be successful, then we start looking externally again. So this is our new way of doing things. And of course, we stole this from engineering, sprints, etc. We always steal everything from them. They're amazing.
Well, I think, you know what?
Huddles is another one. There's loads of
it. How you work on. We often, when we're putting new initiatives in place, you build it in a sort of an agile way.
Yes.
And then you monitor it in sprints, so that, Bill, you're a big fan, aren't you, of never doing something every week forever.
Yeah.
Having set periods of time in which you're doing it for.
Yeah. So if we roll out, for example, meetings with hiring managers, instead of saying we're going to meet every Monday for the next 4 or 5 weeks, we're going to meet every Monday. We would say we're meeting every Monday for the next 4 weeks. And then at the end of that 4 weeks, let's see if we still need to do it every Monday, or we go twice a week. But instead, I feel like if you have a recurring meeting, you never set a deadline to it,
Nice.
it will stop buying into it. They might not turn up 1 week, they think it's happening. Where if you say, we're doing 1-week meeting for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, it tends to work.
I'm stealing this one too, because we do have recurring ones, and
have a little bit monotonous, don't they? A bit, they drag, and you turn up with the same information every week. Whereas if you're putting it into sprints, as you say, we're going to do this for this period, and this is the desired outcome at the end of that, and you're working towards something rather than just updating.
Everyone's committed to it a lot more. Yeah.
exactly.
But yeah, I often find that lots of areas of business end up taking parts of engineering, like ways of working or methodologies, because typically engineers have developed them ways of working because they're productive.
Yes. Which is great.
Yeah.
Which is great. I use a lot of whiteboards as well with the team. Like, I'm a huge fan now. So the first thing that we did was, okay, my colleague and I, was just us two at the time. I'm like, we're going to get more people in. Let's put all that knowledge in a whiteboard. So when the people come, they can see everything that we've done so far. And I swear, we probably spent like 3 days building this whiteboard. And now it's like, like the source of truth for everyone that comes into, our team and is like reading it and understands what's going on. Yeah.
I actually like physical whiteboards. No one else uses them but me. I just love whiteboards. I think they're just
But you're great because
great tool for creativity.
Yes. Put it down on paper or, on a whiteboard.
point towards.
Yeah.
Like, if people's attention, if you're in a meeting, people just get distracted otherwise. If you're pointing at something constantly.
Yeah, but then being a remote first company, it's quite difficult because like I want everything on a whiteboard, but then I can't really show anyone it. Yeah. So it ends up being a brainstorming thing.
I don't know if I'm allowed to move on to another question, but
you do what you want,
because you've not only grown the business, but now you've grown a TA team as well. So how's that been? This is your first. I mean, have you ever hired this many TA people?
No. I'll be honest. It's been very interesting. And the first thing my colleague and I, who, we started together, we decided that we're going to look for basically, a team that has the skills that we don't have. I know, again, cliche, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I think we've done an amazing job because we are at a stage where we are, going to the next level. I don't have that experience. Neither does she. So we brought in at least 2 people now that have that experience. So one is from, the big guys like Stripe and Twilio. So they have seen that crazy. I don't have it. I need this. So then they can start making me think like, okay, Merita, you need to think of this because this how is going to affect this. So it's more of a partnership, right?
It's what's it called? Unconscious incompetence.
Ooh, love it.
Yes. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that is just down to experience, things that you will learn along the way. But if you don't know, having an ego that's in check, I think, is one of the most powerful tools we can have.
Agreed.
Because, I mean, talking from my own experience, we started the Rec Hub, and there was a couple of us, and then we grew to 5 or 6, and then 10, 15, and then already I had no idea what I was doing. I'd run recruitment teams of like 20 or so.
Oh, wow.
Running a business is a whole different ball game. So then when you get to 50, 60, you're absolutely out of my depth. But you're constantly surrounding yourself with people that aren't, to keep each other afloat. And I think that it's so powerful to know where your gaps are.
Exactly.
And then have the ego to say, I'm going to hire someone that maybe be better than me.
I don't mind at all. Yeah, I tell my team, you guys are recruitment machines. Like something I don't have, right? I'm good at like organizing and managing, like project managing, the whole thing. But yeah, it's been fun so far.
And he said, you know what? In order for you to be able to do that, because often why people don't hire, why A players don't hire A players or A star is usually because of fear that they will be replaced, Whereas if you have somebody that makes you feel secure and secure enough in your role and confident enough to be able to go out and hire who you want, then it allows you to sort of really have the autonomy to hire amazing people without the fear that some leaders may give like a word of threats.
Even if it happens, right, you got to be humble, because if you don't know what's at the next stage, you can sometimes step back. I always tell everyone this, that at every stage of, a startup, like whether it's seed stage, Series A, Series B, etc., some people will be good for certain stages, but it doesn't mean they will be able to grow as fast as the business is growing. And it's happened. We have seen it in our business. It just happens, and you just have to move on.
And there's like embracing that.
Yeah.
Embracing, not fear so much, but embracing change. And the second you can embrace change, you're not living in fear of your role getting replaced or someone overstepping you. As long as I'm good at what I do now, and that may change in the future. I'm just going to, I can only contract myself, right?
We all want to add value, don't we?
Yeah.
We want to feel valued. And if you're in a position where you can no longer add the right or adequate value,
Gotta step back.
You got to being self-aware enough to go, I've got us to where we are now.
Yeah.
And I'm not the right person to get us where we need to go. And so taking a step back is like a super brave thing.
Yeah.
So that's really, I think it would be quite rare to find many people that are like that quick to think in that way. I think there's a lot of egos in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's always important to have a bit of ego, right? It gets you places. But just you got to know when to become a bit more humble. I mean, just the thought of us ever being 7,000 people just scares me. I'm not going to lie. So probably that's a time where I'll be like, okay. But the only way for you to know when to take a step back is actually to go through the process, right? And see. And then at some point you will see where your sweet spot is. Like when I talk to my mentors, each one of them has a sweet spot now because they've done it a couple of times. They're like, mine is between 200 and 500. The other one is like 0 to 120. So you got to find your sweet spot.
Yeah. Where would you say your sweet spot is?
Oh, I still have time to grow, but I really love the growth stage, the crazy growth. I've done it a couple of times now, and it's just exciting. Yeah, the one where you're just trying to, I was going to say controlling the chaos, but trying to control the chaos.
Any other challenges, Merita, that you've experienced and that you can recall? Maybe, if we're looking at other people, if somebody else was to be sitting in your role 2 years ago, 27th employee, about to go on that wild roller coaster, what if we can give them any other insight into what it might be, what it might look like?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. So I would probably think of surrounding myself. I mean, I did that, which I would say I was lucky to have like amazing like mentors around me that helped me through this process. Because let's be honest, like the expectation is not that the founder and the founders know what I should be doing. So I would suggest for that person to have like mentors who have done this before and ask them all the questions possible in order not to fail. I didn't even know I needed to do a capacity plan for my team. You know, like when was it? Q1 of last year, I was speaking to one of my mentors. She's like, so where's your capacity plan? Let me see what you're doing. You know, I'm like, what's this? You know, and then I was like, okay, Merita, you know, put this together. Look at, you know, the metrics again. Look how fast you were hiring before. So do the math to project what you can do and achieve for the business. So all these like little things that I didn't know, I suggest you find someone that has done this before and that can help you on this journey.
What's your best tips of going out and finding a good mentor?
Yeah.
And you know what? Because I've actually had this conversation with people before where I said, like, you need to get yourself a good mentor.
You wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
What the fuck?
LinkedIn, great source, right? Look at the companies you literally admire. Look at the people who work there and just message them. People are actually very open to help out. You know, you'll be surprised. Literally, I just messaged the same way. Do you want to go for coffee? And they're like, sure, let's go for coffee. People are super open-minded, and why not? And I still have this relationship with them for the past like 2-3 years now, which has been amazing. Yeah, it's super helpful.
I think it's, first of all, just reach out. Like, there's a lot of fear when people, you know, if you're ideally looking for a mentor that's a few steps ahead of you in your career, to help you navigate the next few steps for yourself. And so I think there's a fear attached or associated to reaching out to somebody that you perceive to be, you know,
it's a compliment. I wouldn't look at it like that, right?
Yeah.
And even if they're a competitor, it's, you know, people are, like, say they want to help other people, and it's quite flattering, right? You know, to sort of be asked to help someone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just reach out, just know hold it off.
And it's real like maturity and proactivity to go and get that mentoring right, because especially you see a lot of people these days saying, you know, how are you going to develop me then when they join a business? And it's like, well, actually, it's yourself to develop yourself.
100% agreed.
There was no one above you in talent acquisition, so who was going to be able to help you?
Well, the founders can help me as much as they can, you know, make introductions, but the rest, it's on me. And you learn on the job. That's why I find it super interesting. Like, everyone is like, from day one, I want learning and development. Wait a second. You know, let's reach a certain stage of the business, you know, and then we can implement this. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about learning and development. But joining a startup is its own learning and development journey on its own. If you think about it, this might be controversial for a lot of people, but especially at the beginning of that journey, like, you are learning so much.
When now, the expectation for development is so much more in terms of the progression of the speed of progression. So, like, what I mean by that is people want to be promoted and progressed every 2 months, 6 months, 12 months, whereas years ago, you know, back when people were at one company for 40 years, you could be doing the same job for 3, 4, 5 years, becoming a real expert and, you know, really honing your craft before getting a promotion or before moving on to something else. Whereas now it's like, it's we live in a bit more of a world of everything instant.
Yeah. It's the bigger and,
I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. It's like the bigger and better out there. Like, you're constantly looking for that. And I probably will blame social media on this, because you're always like scrolling next. So those dopamine levels, like the excitement that's constantly there, it's probably like you're constantly looking for that craziness, you know, it's the next hit. Exactly.
Fast-paced world now, like that. When we talk about the years gone by of, you know, people staying in those companies, that world just doesn't exist as much.
No.
Yeah. Right. We all work and live in a tech world in this room, right? So you know, you've hired, you know, companies weren't hiring 200-300 people in 2 years that long ago, right? So I think it's just people's way of working has changed. They want to progress fast. The company's hiring fast. They'll change jobs fast.
I find that to appease those, sometimes companies just end up, there you go, promoted to a same role but senior, and nothing's changed. The role hasn't changed. Nothing else has changed. It's just,
well, maybe that would change now. I mean, you're fools on this, but I think with this big change in environment, a lot of especially a lot of people in tech, and whether that be in any roles but worked in tech, so marketing or internal recruitment, whatever it might be. I think people now, my opinion is that people might be more interested in stability.
Yeah, they are.
That ACS and safety and quality of environment as opposed to, speed of environment.
They are. I hear this a lot in interviews right now, and people are looking for stability. But I'm always honest with them, right? Like, this is a startup. This is a scale up. Like, I want to tell you, yes, this is stable, etc. But, anything can happen.
The reality is that now stability is so hard to find because people would have gone Meta, Microsoft, Google,
Amazon
for stability. Like all of these large organizations where you would have gone
Stability.
And between them, probably let go of 100,000 people in the last 3 months. So, yeah, it's a tough thing to find out.
Yeah.
It really is.
The golden handcuffs. They don't work anymore. No.
Not at all.
I mean, it's also, I'm not saying it's a good thing, right? But it's also maybe things are just changing because people need to find out what they want to dedicate and where they want to find stability. Is work just the place where you should be looking stability for? It's too many questions. I mean, yeah. But I think in general, what we've gone through, I am thinking. But think about what the TA and people side of things have gone through in the past, 3-4 years, right? We had COVID, we had this, we had that. It's it's just way too many ups and downs in such a short period of time. And I don't think I don't know the answer, but I don't think that's ever happened in history so fast.
It's crazy. Cyclical nature of the economy.
It's 10 years. But this is shorter. Yeah.
I used to say that every 7 to 10 years there was an event.
I feel like it's now less.
2 years. It's like
every 3 months.
Look back in history, they'll be like, oh, those COVID times must have been crazy. I mean, it must have been awesome after when it all went back to normal. It's like, no.
and another slap,
For a lot longer.
Or just shortly after.
Inflation hitting.
Oh, just before that we had Brexit and that
Cost of living crisis. Name it.
It was a tough few years, actually.
And we're still here.
Exactly.
Yeah. Surviving and thriving.
This is going to be our version of during the war.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yes.
We were allowed one walk a day at one.
What? Do you remember? You don't remember? You clearly were yeah. But yeah, I remember that one.
Can you take the dog out? Because I want to go for a run. So I can't run and do the dog because that's 2 times.
You guys are too good. Wow.
Yeah, we didn't stick by that. She was like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I drug it out walking the dog. But yeah, that was crazy. So yeah, that's going to be our during the war now.
Yeah.
I don't realize how lucky you've got it.
That's wild. Well, hopefully, we don't have the depression that goes with that.
Yeah,
because they're quite depressive stories during the war. We've got some good stuff.
Yeah, we do. It should be picking up, right? I think there's one person I'm following on LinkedIn where it's constantly talking about, VCs investing in seed stage and Series A startups. So it is moving. It's just, I think it's growing little by little. I mean, yeah.
So, right. So VCs don't sit on their hands for long.
No,
they got
yeah. If they're not investing, well, they do it. So they're like, we'll have a break for 6 months, but when I get back,
they have the money. Let's be honest. Come on. Yeah.
And they'll use a lot of it to drive down, deals as well.
Probably, yeah.
This is the best time for them,
Right. So we're coming towards the end of our delightful conversation.
We can go on forever.
Not today, can we? So in closing tradition, not stolen by from Stephen Bartlett, like that as well. But we ask each guest to write a question for our next guest. This question was written by Matthias Schweisser from Emnitz. Thanks for your question, Matthias. So, Merita, what is the one thing that you would have liked to would have liked to know earlier in your career to have been successful that nobody had that nobody gave you the information or the knowledge to? You just sort of discovered for yourself.
Good question. It's a tough one, but the first thing that comes to mind is managing up. I think this is something that no one tells you how to do, and you're just winging it on a daily basis.
Like, you're often given training, and there's lots of L&D around managing people.
But managing up is a different story. Yeah, and it's not the same thing, right? You need to be, thinking about, okay, just an example, right? Like, what are the VCs telling the founders, and why are the founders telling me? Of course, there's a lot of context in our business. Luckily, we have it. But sometimes there's things that I don't know, let's say. So I need to be able to make those right decisions or make the right argument for some things. Exactly, for what correct, and using the right terminology in their language. So this is something that I would have loved to know more about.
Yeah. And so therefore, this is what the founder cares about. So when I'm pitching for this amazing embedded solution by the Rec Hub, I have to position my argument in such a way that he buys it.
Exactly.
And signs it off.
Magic. There you go.
He has the right information to sell it to the VC. So on and so forth.
If
Often, need this to hire the right people, that might not be something that the CEO or the founder is thinking about.
Correct.
They're thinking about getting to the next level of funding. And actually, by using this solution, I'm going to get you into this level of funding quicker.
Exactly.
That's an interesting point. There's a person in the Rec Hub that I'm working very close with, a mentor that's becoming more of a leader in the business. And so I'll include that person in meetings now at leadership level. And I'll see them get asked questions and answer it. And I'm like, and I'll walk away after and say, right, what you just said, make sure you don't say that next time.
There you go.
If you don't know the answer, say I don't know the answer, and I'll get the answer for you. But don't try and waffle, because they just found out that you just waffled.
Yeah. And nobody likes that. Nobody likes that.
One, like, immediately there, right? But like you said, you don't have that at the start of your career. It's very hard to manage upwards.
It's really interesting. I think actually by even just sitting down with the person that you're reporting to and over a coffee or a beer or whatever and saying, what is it you care about? What is it? What do you do in your day to day and that? And how, what are the things that keep you awake at night?
Yeah.
I'm really getting to understand that person, because often I don't think we do that.
Yeah. How can I make your life easier?
Yeah.
That's how you should enter every one-on-one. That's what I always ask the CEO. I'm like, how are you today? Because people forget. They just go straight into like, okay, this is what we need to discuss. No, you're a human at the end of the day. Like, check in on the person that you're working with, reporting into, or like even the people that are reporting into you. It's so simple. How are you? So simple.
What is it they always say with how are you? And then when you get lucky, yeah, I'm okay. No, but how are you?
Yeah.
Always ask again. Yeah. We're actually it's ingrained in us to just fire off an automated, I'm good.
Yeah.
But then actually they may not be good.
Yeah. So that's a cultural thing as well. I think British people are terrible at that. Like when you say, how are you? And then, yeah, I'm good. And then just,
how awkward could it be? It's just sort of, I already feel awkward. Like, how are you? I'm terrible. My nan just died. And I'm never died.
yeah,
Can't pay the mortgage. Cool. See you around.
That's so mean. So mean.
So yeah, let's talk about the ATS system.
Yeah. What I've picked up from the British is like, not too bad, not too bad. I'm like, and when I look back, I'm like, this has such a negative connotation. What do you mean not too bad? I need to stop saying this.
I'm bad.
Yeah. It's okay.
It's just the equivalent of good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Is
Not
it?
too bad.
It's like, it's on a verge though. Is it bad? Is it not bad?
It's not too bad. Yeah. But that's when you say that when you're good. How are you? Yeah, not too bad. But actually, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
I just talk with a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
I find it hilarious because obviously we deal a lot with different international cultures all the time. And there's an Instagram account called, or a Twitter account called like Very British Problems. And it just basically comes up with like British phrases all the time, or ways we do things.
Maurice Jones.
I'm actually following it. It's on Twitter. I have.
Yeah. When you explain things to people, so like, and they don't realize, if I send an email to a German person and put at the end, best, and then my name, and I'm probably pissed off. So I didn't put best regards or kind regards. I've just put regards. That means I'm annoyed because I put regards, but they don't realize.
No.
It's like, oh, that's nice.
He's regarding me here.
Bless him.
There you go.
Yeah, there's lots of them. Without even height, if you just put their first, so Harry, see below. They would have.
Not even Harry, it's like, please see below. As per my last email, that's my favorite one.
Cool. So thanks, Merita, for joining us. It's been an absolutely amazing conversation today.
Thank you for having me.
Bill for joining. Sure to have you back. Thanks for everyone for listening. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Ciao.
So then we've got to talk about what the gender pay gap really is and what it isn't, because that's the bit that comes with you. I can look at a percentage number that shows me a difference, but what does that mean? What does it mean in the organisation? I think there's a few misconceptions between gender pay gap and equal pay. This is the really important bit. So